Hello and good morning. Welcome to the Fantasy Life Start Sit Hour brought to you by Fantasy Life. Your boy Ian Hartitz as well as Chris Allen in the house. Happy Sunday morning, Chris. Fantasy playoffs. We're here.
I know we got some snow on the ground out here in Ohio. Fantasy championships to win. I mean, let's get the people what they need, man. Let's get to it.
Hey, I won't answer these for as long as possible, Chris, because then I need to go and just shovel a driveway that I probably should have done yesterday, but you know what? There was better things to do. As always, in December, we do have some weather concerns to worry about. Luckily, we have the best weather mind in all of fantasy football here, and Mr. Chris Allen. It seems like, from my uneducated opinion, Chris, the main concern is going to be this Commanders-Giants game, mostly. Otherwise, it's just kind of cold.
Yeah, mostly just kind of cold. If you folks were able to check out the last looks or cheat sheet that I put together each week, I kind of walked through most of the games that you would have any sort of concern about. And like Ian had said, off the top, it's mostly cold. I mean, Chicago is going to have frigid temperatures or temperatures under 20 degrees, a little bit of snow out in the New York area. So for folks looking to the Buffalo Patriots game, also should be something that you should be concerned about, at least from a weather standpoint. And then also a couple other games, at least that also popped up on the radar from a cold perspective. Should be also the Browns Bears should be around 13 degrees at kickoff. Dolphins Steelers. So Tua playing in cold weather. I'm sure that narrative is going to get kicked around a little bit. And then Raiders Eagles. That one should be a little bit high wind, somewhere between 15 and 20 miles per hour. Commanders Giants also somewhere in that same range. Around, like, from a win perspective, but I would say just from a cold standpoint, I'm not trying to double count any of that stuff. Slight dips in passing efficiency, but not enough for me to change any of the plays in either of those games. But even like the Ravens Bengals, which also should be around 10 to 12 degrees at kickoff.
As always, our fantasy life projections are being actively updated by the great mind of Dwayne "The Rock" McFarland. He is incorporating all this weather stuff into there as well. If you guys did just want, a more clear weather look game by game, I invite you to go to rotogrinders.com/weather/NFL. Kevin Roth does a great job keeping that updated for all of us degens. Meanwhile, Chris, seemed like Saturday was getting a bit chaotic, okay? I was in the middle of a freaking plank at my gym, saw the Christian McCaffrey news, decided to wait 13 more seconds before I could roll over to the next position to make the pickup, and I actually got sniped in my home league. So kudos to my friend Vinny for being more on top of it than I was. I need to learn how to prioritize things in life. Luckily, though, Christian McCaffrey is expected to play anyway, despite popping up with a back injury that nearly broke fantasy football. Also firmly expected to play Devon Achane, Josh Jacobs, despite not being able to practice for much of this week. Roma Dunze making his return from that foot. Devontae Adams should be good with his hamstring issue. Deebo Samuel, Jake Ferguson, and Amari DiMercado, again, all expected to be out there today. The two game time decisions, Chris Rodriguez for the Commanders, he plays at 1 o'clock, so it shouldn't really matter. And then Emmanuel Wilson, who, again, hopefully he plays and everything, but he is sick, and with Josh Jacobs playing anyway, doesn't quite matter as much. With Nick Chubb not expected to play, a slight bump for Woody Marks. And yes, 44-year-old literal grandpa Phillip Rivers will in fact be starting for the Colts in the 4:25 time slot. So, yeah, Chris, a lot was going on here, but it seems like at this point, Chris Rodriguez, the only kind of somewhat meaningful game time decision.
That's what it looks like. And man, I cannot believe there's a dude that 2 years older than I am just about to start an NFL game today. I get it. I know if folks have been paying attention to the media this week, not just the big news about Phillip Rivers coming back, but also the fact that him and Shane Steichen, they're boys. They talk weekly about the offense. Rivers has been running the same offense with his son that's in high school. So all the things kind of set up to, I get how the Colts got to this decision. It's not like somebody just randomly said, well, let's just give Phillip Rivers a call and see what he's doing. But still, it's just going to be something of a spectacle to see him back out on the field, especially against the Seahawks defense, which has just been laying waste to a lot of opposing quarterbacks. So I'm really ready to sit down and watch that game once we get to that point here around 4:30 this afternoon.
A lot of great football today, but I do agree with you, man. That is the one that gets me most excited. With that, let's get into some of that football. As always, we're starting from the bottom, going to the top with all of your start sit questions. If you have one that we weren't able to get to, first of all, sorry, but also check out the Fantasy Life Start Sit tool. Very much free, gives you the capability of saying if you're an underdog, if you're a big favorite, league settings and all that. And then again, gives you kind of projections, ceiling, and floor outcomes. So basically, our best attempt at giving you a one-stop shop for all star sits that we can't get to. That said, Chris, let's get to plenty of these, starting off with our guy Gut Checker, picking 2 in PPR, Michael Wilson, Waddle, Rico Dowdle, Devin Deal. Okay, so from those guys, Michael Wilson for sure. Even with that weather, Chris, I'm inclined to go with Jalen Waddle. It is a pretty great matchup against the Steelers. Cold weather be damned.
Yeah, I know, and that's the one of the things I was thinking about with how many folks are going to be concerned seeing Tua playing in cold weather because we've seen it a number of times. Whether it was what was it the Browns game earlier this year where he threw a few picks and that game got completely out of hand before even the second half. Then of course everybody remembers that Chiefs playoffs game from a couple of years ago. So it's just going to be a number of things working against Tua, but I still think with the amount of volume that Waddle has been seeing, and of course even though Devon Achane should be playing, he's going to be playing somewhat banged up. So I could see a few more targets going towards Waddle than anybody else.
Tyler Warren over Isaiah Likely there in our fantasy life ranks. From Big Walt, Jalen Hurts or Jackson Dart. I think if we hadn't seen this kind of Giants offensive progression over the last handful of weeks with Mike Kafka leading the way, we could have talked ourselves in to Jackson Dart. But the problem, guys, is we got 0 design rushes in that Patriots game, his first game back from concussion. And Chris, just a cowardly mindset from this Giants team right now. Like they're content to go into games and basically just run away the clock. They were down 31-7 at halftime against the Patriots, and Jackson Dart still went through the football 24 times out there. So I got to go with Jalen Hurts. I know he's fresh off of one of the worst fantasy performances we pretty much have ever seen, but certainly an easier matchup today against the Raiders. And also there's a situation where, again, he can play bad, still get his tush pushed a couple times inside the 5-yard line, and all of a sudden be a fantasy star.
I don't understand. So Jacoby Brissett gets his garbage time jersey to put in Canton. Why couldn't Jalen Hurts get his jersey for the first time in NFL history, turning the game over twice in the same play? Why couldn't his jersey wind up in Canton? I'm just asking the real questions here today. But to your point, the fact that they're trying to take the foot off the gas, whether it's from a design rushing standpoint or even pass volume standpoint for Jackson Dart, even though I can see him having a more efficient day going up against the Commanders defense, it does at least paint a picture to the point where I could see Jalen Hurts at least having I would say the higher ceiling than what Jackson Dart has. I think Dart has the higher floor. I would say it Hurts, even though based off the poor performance last week, we know the ceiling isn't as high as it has been in years past. I still think Jalen Hurts has the better ceiling than Dart at this point.
There should be like a football folly room in the Hall of Fame. There might be. It's just a very, very big building to begin with, but just my 2 cents there. Also from Big Walt, with Bucky disappointed now with dogs, starting 2, Jamison Williams, Christian Watson, Ladd McConkey, Breece Hall, and RJ Harvey. As always, when I get these kind of toss-ups between, capable running backs and wide receivers, I usually do lean towards the running backs. In this case, at least RJ Harvey. Jamison Williams is playing some good football, though. That would be my 2, Chris. If we had any level of competent quarterback play expected with the Jets, I would go Breece Hall, but we don't. So give me RJ Harvey and J-Mo. You with me?
Yeah, I think that's fair because if the Carolina Panthers showed anything, if you have a speedy wide receiver with some size, you can get over whether it's Emmanuel Forbes or some of the other Rams corners. So I'd say Jamison Williams lines up to have he's that same archetype of wide receiver, and we know that this should be something of a back and forth matchup between the Lions and the Rams. So I think that's probably the best, because it's not to say that Patrick Surtain is going to be shadowing Christian Watson. He could follow Romeo Doubs. McConkey, that whole passing game has been up and down with Herbert's hand. So I think Jamison Williams and RJ Harvey are the best options here.
Xfinity Start Sit Tool is in agreement. Thank you, Xfinity. From our guy, Craig. Fannin or Strange, that is going to be consensus. Harold Fannin, he is our tight end 4 on the week, only behind Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and George Kittle. Also wondering, picking 2 in PPR, Jacobs, Chuba, and Woody. Jacobs and Woody, I think especially with Nick Chubb out. I had it that way anyway, though, Chris. Jacobs and Woody.
Yeah, you could make the case for Chuba Hubbard, kind of. I thought, well, I don't know. And you were talking about this earlier this week on social media. Rico Dowdle, like it was mentioned he was on the injury report, but then he hasn't been on the official injury report for Carolina, so he's fine. Yeah. But either way, going up against the Saints rush defense, I would say that there should be enough opportunities for either of those 2 running backs, Hubbard specifically, especially at how Willie played going into the bye, that you could make the case for him. But I do think the first 2 are probably the ones I would go with.
And then also Ladd McConkey, Cortland Sutton, or Kenneth Walker. I still do lean towards Ladd. I know it hasn't been awesome in recent weeks. Justin Herbert obviously playing banged up, but I don't know, man. It's not like it's been clear sailing for Walker or Sutton as well. So that one's close. I would have it between Ladd and Walker. This might be the first time I pull out the, if you're a big favorite, go ahead and go with Walker. If you're an underdog, give me Ladd type of thing.
Yeah, and the Chiefs defense is somewhat banged up as well. I think it was like Trent McDuffie was in and out of the blue tent last week. I think he should still be able to suit up today. But still, there's enough holes within the Chiefs defense that you could see Ladd McConkey get in the box. So yeah, I understand that one too.
McDuffie is indeed questionable. We'll see what happens there. Last one here from Craig. Pick one: Parker Washington, Malik Washington, Luther Burden, Andre Yoshivas, or Mitchell Tinsley. Roma Dunze is back. I still think I probably have Burden ranked just ahead of some of these guys. We're talking about like a wide receiver 4 versus wide receiver 5. So not a great option there, Craig. If you vehemently disagree, I would say to go with your gut there. So I would say Luther Burden. I have picked up Mitchell Tinsley in my 32-team league. Everyone trying to get a big win in the divisional round. But I think for Craig's purposes, probably just better off with Luther.
Yeah, I think that one's probably the best because could you make a case for Mitchell Tinsley? Yes, he's seen some more targets, especially when the team has been down a pass catcher, and without T. Higgins, there should be a few more balls to go around in what should be a high scoring or up tempo match, its second divisional match between the Ravens and the Bengals. So I get that one. Yoshivas, I think from a routes run standpoint, whenever you see one pass catcher down, Yoshivas should be out there in the field more. But in terms of how many more targets we can project for him, that's always been tough because he gets those third down contested catch type situations, which can pop off for a touchdown, which we saw last week. But still, that's kind of hard to project. So I'd rather go with Luther Burden in my mind, especially again, to your point, if you are kind of a dog or you need some of that upside, I would say Burden offers you the best out of that bunch.
Yet, guys, but man, this dude does look special with the football in his hands. Maybe that is coming today. From our guy, Wesley. It is a great day to be great. Appreciate you, Wesley. Pick 2 in full point PPR. Juwan Jennings, Tedero McMillan, Rashid Shaheed with a 0.1 return yard bonus, or Aaron Jones. So 0.1. So if we get 100 return yards and bust one, which seems kind of unlikely, so we're maybe projecting an extra, we'll be generous, 5 or 6 points more likely than not for Rashid Shaheed there. I still don't know if that's enough to catch Juwan Jennings and Tedero McMillan. The matchup for Shaheed is great. It's always been great. We love Sam Darnold. They're facing a Colts defense that is a mix of bad and just really banged up, with Sauce Gardner and Charvarius Ward out of the picture. I think we can look up after the game, Chris, and go like, oh yeah, Rashid Shaheed got 2 targets, of course. So Juwan Jennings and Tedero McMillan. I would say this, Wesley, if your projections do have Shaheed in front because of the return factor, maybe I'm not considering that enough. But for me, I don't think that's enough for me to go over Juwan and T-Mac. How do you feel, Chris?
He's a bad word. I want that known. Okay, I'm just gonna throw it out there. Like Cleveland said, I want that known. Juwan Jennings, he's a bad person talking stuff. I want that known. But no, Juwan Jennings, I think he should stick out the most, either from a target standpoint, also going against the Titans defense. I think the last 3 out of 4 quarterbacks to face the Titans, they've thrown for multiple touchdowns. Wide receivers, they've turned into something of a pass funnel. And with Christian McCaffrey popping up on the injury report yesterday, I could see a more pass-happy type of approach for the 49ers in this game. So Jennings, and I would say Shaheed, even though, yes, I mean, he had, 4 or 5 targets last week, not something we can always project on a week-in, week-out basis. So I'd say with the return yardage, and to your point, Ian, if it does showing him projecting for a bit more, I'd be fine with him too.
Next up, we got Tedero McMillan or Woody Marks. I'm checking the consensus ranks because I definitely have Woody Marks in this one. It does look like that is the way it's going to be. Again, no Nick Chubb, and just this, I know Woody hasn't been the most efficient guy, but like we were looking at probably 20 combined carries and targets at home against the Cardinals team where we're seeing the Texans as like 9.5 point favorites. So just a ton going in the right favor of Woody. And again, T-Mac's awesome. He's had some good games here and there, but I just worry that we get a down Bryce game where he throws for 110 yards out there. So give me Woody Marks in full PPR.
Yeah, the Rams just put up 200 rushing yards against the Cardinals just last week. And then even before that, I think it was like Bucky got in the box against them. And so, yeah, I'd say from a rushing standpoint, even though it sounds like it's could potentially be bad chalk because we're just trying to project or looking at what's happened in weeks past, if Marks is getting all of the workload and also is put in this type of situation, I would go with Marks.
Xfinity Start Sit Tool says F all that and goes with T-Mac. I will say that when you guys check out that image, like it does show you that like the best, highest ceiling projection was Woody Marks. It just thinks T-Mac has a little bit safer floor. So always things to keep in mind as we're trying to solve this ever tough puzzle known as fantasy football. From our guy Greggy, what's up, man? Happy week 15. Start one non-PPR, small hole after Thursday Night Football. Tony Pollard, Jordan Addison, or Ladd McConkey. I'm still giving Ladd the benefit of the doubt and, these sort of closer ones. I know the Eagles game didn't go well, but honestly, Cooper DeJean made several really good plays that maybe a lesser corner doesn't, and we're talking about 100-plus yards. So give me Ladd.
Yeah, Ladd. Do I want to try and believe in JJ McCarthy and Jordan Addison after last week and seeing McCarthy play a little bit better, a little bit more in rhythm with the offense? Yes, but still, I think I would take the better quarterback as of right now, and that's Justin Herbert. So that leads me to Lad McConkey.
And again, I know the Cowboys secondary sucks, and they really do, but that defensive line and front seven has
Their
been playing a
pass
lot
rush.
better. Vikings is really banged up. McCarthy's taken like 4 or 5 sacks in these last few games. That's more so my concern. We're trying to project the Vikings to have this big game here on Sunday night. Also, Greggy, 6-point passing touchdown, Burrow or Dart. Pretty sure you're like Burrow. I definitely like Burrow, and I know our residential Bengals homer over here, Chris, does as well. So give us Joe Burrow. Same team need to drop one for a kicker. I also effing hate kickers. Pollard, Vidal, Fannin, Addison, or Ladd. So I don't want to drop Fannin, man, because even if you have a tight end, like we're talking about a legit top 4 option, I would even play Fannin over Vidal and Addison if it came down to it in a flex call. I would probably say Addison. We just went through that one question before, so I'm guessing you don't really need Addison here. So Addison or Vidal? How about you?
Maybe Vidal. Let's say that the Vikings look okay again against Dallas today. They play the Giants in week 16, and then they get the Lions in week 17. So you could make the case that you should have a pass catcher that's attached to JJ McCarthy throughout the rest of the playoffs. That's all I'm saying. Whereas you could see Hampton take over a little bit more of the backfield, see a little bit less of Kamani Vidal. Maybe that's all. That'd be my only pushback to that. But that's more hypothetical than anything else.
Schedule is incredible for the Vikings. I just have zero confidence in McCarthy consistently being able to take advantage
That's
of
kind
it,
of where I'm
but
at.
we
Yeah.
shall see. We got Drake May, Jackson Dart question. A lot of Jackson Dart questions. So, guys, here are the quarterbacks that with our Fantasy Life consensus rankings, and I do agree with the list in general, that we would be starting ahead of Jackson Dart. Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, Drake May. So that's for you, the Ocho. Also Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and Patrick Mahomes. That is it. So our consensus QB9. Personally, I would have Brock Purdy ahead of him as well, and I think Jared Goff's pretty close, but I totally get it. Rest of our rankers do disagree with that. But in this case, yes, Drake May certainly ahead of Jackson Dart. From our guy Devin, round 2 of the playoffs. Wow, okay, starting a little bit early there. Bold move. Swift, Sutton, or Kenneth Walker at the flex in full PPR. I think I'm going with DeAndre Swift, man. He's been a solid mid to low end RB2. I think he's actually probably top 15 on the season right now. Walker, very good. If they get inside the 5-yard line, he's not going to score a touchdown. I know Swift has a little bit of that concern with Monangai, but it hasn't been quite as pronounced. And then Sutton's just, more of a wide receiver 3, hasn't boomed really since September. So give me DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I know, and it's been Kyle Monangai that's cracking Cleveland Browns helmets and having paint chip off and all that other stuff. But Swift has been, I would say, similarly efficient to Monangai in that same Bears backfield. So we just watched Tony Pollard rip off his best game against the same defense last week. So having Ben Johnson come in with his design runs and how well that he's been able to get this Chicago Bears offense back on track from a ground perspective, I would say I would go with DeAndre Swift here over the rest of that group. That is either we're projecting with Kenneth Walker. I know everybody's thinking this is finally going to be the week. This is finally going to be the week. And then it's not Kenneth. I was going to say literally Kenneth Charbonnet, but Zach Charbonnet or even Velus Jones getting into the mix.
Ooh.
So I'd rather go with DeAndre Swift here.
DeAndre Swift, guys, on 3rd and 4th and 1 this season is 9 for 10 on picking up that, one single yard. Only Jalen Warren actually has a better rate. So I know we don't think of him as a bruiser, and he's really not, but hey, finds a way to get the yards regardless. Xfinity Start Sit did say Cortland Sutton. Things starting to piss me off as we get more into the Fantasy Life Start Sit hour. One DST question from Greggy: is Seattle automatically escalated to DST1 with Grant Buffalo at the helm? Yeah, I can't think of another defense I would rather play. Even like Houston, I would just think domination, but maybe Jacoby could crawl his way back out. I would say for the time being, guys, whoever's playing the Colts, go ahead and fire up that DST. From Nate Deasy, 50-50 matchup, Lamar, Burrow, or May. It's between Burrow and May. I think without T. Higgins, I probably just lean May for the tiebreaker, Chris.
Yeah, why not Lamar? Is it just because of the turnovers over the past couple of weeks? Because you yourself have pointed out on social media, if it not for some ticky-tack pass interference calls, just crazy stuff happening once his pass catchers go over the goal line, we could be talking about Lamar in a completely different light. And honestly, going back and looking at some of his scrambles from last week, looks like, I wouldn't say he's fully back, but enough that could we see 200 plus passing yards, a couple of touchdowns, one definitely going to one of their tight ends. We can just go ahead and pen that in. And then maybe 30, 40 yards on the ground. I could see it happening for Lamar.
Yeah, I could too, man. I don't have a good response. I think Lamar absolutely could boom, man. He's looked good. Honestly, even the Bengals game, just some shenanigans going on. As you know, Chris was mentioning Zay Flowers OPI, Isaiah likely dropping the ball, beat for the goal line and all that. So very, very tough, just again, between three consensus top 6 quarterbacks there. So I will say highest ceiling, like who could we look up at the end of the day and be like, oh, they scored 35 points. I do think that is Lamar. So again, look at your score and everything, but Drake May has deserved the benefit of the doubt to be up there as well. Nate Easy does have another league. Down bad, needs upside. I'm guessing only one flex. Jetta's, Kyron, Judkins, Diggs, or Travion. If it was only one, God, I almost lean Judkins. If we just had to go one, Chris, I would rank them Judkins, Kyron, Jetta's. Because I just feel like no Jerome Ford, no Dylan Sampson. We could see Judkins legit get like 30 touches. Kyron's in a good spot in terms of him being able to score, but Blake Corum's taking, 40% of the work these days. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson, but J.J. McCarthy is J.J. McCarthy. So I lean Judkins here, again, under the pretense that you are down bad and you need a big-time boom.
The only other one that stuck out to me was Stephon Diggs. Remember back in the first time that they played against the Bills, we got the revenge narrative, 10 targets for Stephon Diggs. And I know they've been trying to limit his usage on the field, how many routes run. He's been something of a part-time player, but coming out of the bye, and if there was any matchup that I could see a head coach like Mike Vrabel being able to turn one of his pass catchers loose in a game that they probably should want to win in order to maintain their spot in the AFC East and also kind of keep Drake May in that MVP conversation, even though he's second in line behind Matt Stafford, I would say it would be this one, considering the rest of the pass catchers solid, but maybe not at the level enough to really cement the Patriots win over the Bills if they're trying to do that later today.
From our guy Colin, these are an RB2 and PPR. Rico Dowdle, Tyrone Tracy, Ramondre Stevenson, or Kyle Monungai. I still have Dowdle. I know Chuba's been sneaking up, but even the one game where Chuba started to quote, have better utilization, I think both guys had like 19 and 20 total opportunities out there. So Rico, I still would think is going to be the 1A out here. He's looked good. And again, he is fully healthy. So I go Rico. If you wanted to go with Tracy, Chris, I'd hear you out.
Yeah, but kind of to what you were saying earlier, how little or how less aggressive the Giants have been now with Dart back, I would say that's just the only thing that kind of limits my confidence in starting a guy like Tyrone Tracy. Should he get most of the work? I mean, yeah, I could see that, but still, give me Dowdle here in a matchup for the Panthers that they're trying to cement their spot up at the top of the NFC South, which is actually kind of crazy to think about at this point. But still, I would say it's Dowdle right here for me.
And Greggy, I would go with T-Mac, Olave, and Marks, and I would cut Mr. Jalen Wright. From our guy Smooth B, PPR, Wan'Dale Robinson, or Michael Wilson. We got Wan'Dale up there in the top like 18 or something like that. Still not quite as high as Michael Wilson. It's not going to be easy, guys. I will say this year, like best contested catch rates is Michael Wilson and Puka Nacua. Like it hasn't been empty yards for Michael Wilson. I know a lot of them have been in garbage time, but he still had to work for him out there. So just, again, I think Dwayne did a good job kind of breaking down the show this week. Like you just look at it, he is getting 16 targets per game without Marvin Harrison Jr. And you can say, well, Houston's going to limit 3 of those. And then, well, he's only going to catch 40% of those. You still end up with a really freaking high projection here, Chris. And for that reason, Michael Wilson, still a top 12 wide receiver for us this week.
Yeah, I can't wait until after this game. Like the Cardinals, they're going to play the Texans. They're going to lose. Texans are still going to win, but Michael Wilson's going to have 15 targets, 9 catches for over 100 yards and a touchdown. I'm going to see so many Lisan Al-Gaib tweets with Michael Wilson next to it afterwards, just because of how well he plays without Marvin Harrison Jr. in the lineup. I can already see it coming.
By the way, I was just checking like Twitter notes to see if any news popped up, and like Rivers high school kids, like we literally run the same scheme. Are the Seahawks coaches just grinding high school tape this week? Is that how they're kind of getting ahead, Chris? This whole week it's been like, oh, Rivers runs the same scheme as high school. Maybe get some good looks there. From Sky Raven PPR, Diggs, Flowers, Chris Rodriguez, or Shakur. We were saying a lot of Flowers last week, Chris. It's between him and Diggs. In this one, I'll see who we have ranked higher. Where do you lean, though?
I still lean Diggs. I do have some concerns about the Bills secondary. Yes, Christian Benford did pop up and like keep Jamar Chase mostly in check, and of course he did the pick six against my Joe Burrow. But I would say that Diggs moves enough around the formation. I do wonder if they try and keep if there's a way that Josh McDaniels keeps him away from Christian Benford, allowing him to essentially pop up for a similar type of game that we saw between the Bills and the Patriots early this season. So I lean Diggs, but I can understand why folks will go towards Flowers.
Xfinity and our ranks do indeed have Flowers, but yes, it is going to be close between them. At least Diggs, has scored a touchdown since week one, something that Flowers unfortunately cannot say. From Sky Raven, Pollard, Burden, or Gaston. In this situation, I would be fine going with Tony Pollard. Again, I'm not just completely over my skis, expecting last week to become this new common occurrence for the guy, but it was a good performance. We can still project 15 plus carries and opportunities per game, and just with the roam back for Burden and then Gaston losing a lot of his routes here in recent weeks because of some of the O-line problems, I do think Pollard is pretty clear there. From our guy Bob Son, Lamar or Jackson Dart, that's where we're going with Lamar. Also wondering Corum, Monangai, or Singletary as an underdog in a full PPR. I think I'll leave Monangai there.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was, either Monangai or Corum, because you could tell me because the Rams Lions game is projected for more scoring, and Corum being a part of that environment makes him a better play. I could see that. But with how Monangai has been playing so far, I would say that I want either one of those Bears running backs at this point. So at least in this matchup, I think it's just a slight lean to Monangai for me.
So McConkey or Reed for the flex in PPR, still would be going with McConkey. Good to see Jaden back. Obviously, they're not going to be the easiest of matchups there today in Mile High. From Craig, wondering 49ers D versus Tennessee or Miami versus Pittsburgh. I'm cool with the 49ers. They actually have been playing better. They're so banged up, but the two games before their bye, they only gave up, I think, 17 total points, and Cam Ward, guys, just taking so many sacks. So I will say, if you guys have an extra DST spot, Kansas City Chiefs are out there really available, and they actually play the Titans here in Week 16. So I know I've got a couple squads lucky enough to have the first-round bye. I am stashing the Kansas City Chiefs here for Week 16. So you with me, Chris, on the 49ers?
Absolutely, if not for the sacks, but also the potential for turnovers. I know this could be a fairly pass-happy script, especially with the Purdy coming off of his bye, then putting the Titans into a negative passing situation. So yeah, 49ers for sure.
And then Sky Raven is going to be pretty consensus. Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall over Ramondre Stevenson. From Mike Barker, good morning, my friend. Rough spot in the flex with full PPR. Have to choose between Monangai, Franklin, who is back in play, guys. Pat Bryant's out of the picture this week. Odunze, Singletary, or Pearsall. I think you know it. It's funny, Chris. You see in the kind of order they put the start sits, and sometimes we got the same idea here. I think it's Kyle Monangai.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to advocate for Ricky Pearsall, especially against this Titans secondary, but we just haven't seen the routes and the targets get to the point where we can trust him. I can see this being more of a Jawan Jennings, a George Kittle type of game versus Pearsall having enough to really stick it to us, or have a type of game that we would want to have him in our starting lineup. So I'd prefer Monangai or Troy Franklin, even though he's been had something of an up and down season so far.
Match and half PPR, 40 plus touchdown and 100-yard bonuses. I like leagues that have those. Reward big plays. What's wrong with that? Wondering what the flex, though, Luther Burden, Zach Charbonnet, or Blake Corum. He is projecting to lose by 14 points. This is where I think I'm going Zach Charbonnet, man. There's a chance that we wake up and it's, 50 scoreless yards and stuff, but just 13.5 point faves here over a Colts team that, who's to say they're not going to kind of roll over a little bit at this point in the season. I think Charbonnet has 2 touchdown upside here. Give me Charbs.
Yeah, it all depends on how you feel about Phillip Rivers and if he could stay upright long enough to keep the Colts in extended drives, or this is one of, we kind of think having a 44-year-old start in an NFL game might be somewhat problematic. So could the Seahawks take the air out of the ball and just run it a bunch once they get into the second half? So if you think it's more of the latter than the former, then Charbonnet should be the option here.
And Charbonnet has been pretty good recently, guys. I know some of the early season stats were really damning between him and Kenneth Walker, but you look at the leaderboard and missed tackles forced on the ground. Walker's like third, but Charbonnet's, right behind him there around fifth. So good stuff there. TB12's in the chat. 1 RB2 flex between Swift, Dowdle, Jacobs, Stevenson, and Myers. For sure starting Jacobs. Then I lean probably Swift and Myers, Chris. But if you wanted to put Dowdle in there, I wouldn't call you crazy.
Yeah, I think that's the move right there. I think Stevenson's probably the one I would leave out of that bunch.
And then Schultz, Strange, Jasicki, and Theo. I believe our ranks are Strange, Theo,
Yes.
Schultz, and Jasicki. I like Theo. I'm tempted to put him over Strange, but Jacksonville's, playing really well, at least, throwing the ball in particular last few weeks. T-Law and Jacoby really getting things going. So I'm cool with sticking with Strange, particularly Chris with that Giants game, seemingly having more weather issues than the rest.
That's fair. I would point out Jasicki's usage with T. Higgins out of the lineup,
Good
but
call.
kind of to your point, I think those other guys have either a little bit more upside and projectable targets, or the weather conditions might be a little bit better.
Jasicki definitely gets a bump up, but he's still tight end 16, tight end 17
Yeah,
range.
so
Even
yeah,
without, you'll look at the target line and see he has 6, 7 targets, which is great, but it's just tough to guarantee that week over week when they still are mixing in the Noah Fants and Tanner Hudsons of the world and
right.
keeping Jasicki under 50% of the routes. From Stee, nice. 0.5 PPR. All right. Start 8? No. Okay. Needs one flex. I was about to say, man, come on.
Oh,
What are we
okay.
doing here?
Yeah.
Worthy, Tracy, Mason, Shaheed, and AJ Barner. Barner, guys, by the way, if you are trying to get his DFS or anytime, I actually have him down for a first touchdown today.
Okay.
Elijah Arroyo is out of the picture. AJ Barner's been scoring plenty, gets his tush pushes even as well. So a sneaky league if you just want to lose some, sneaky move, I should say, if you want to lose some money today, maybe on AJ Barner. So Worthy, Tracy, probably between those two. I lean Tracy here, Chris.
Yeah, also lean Tracy. Could you make the case for Jordan Mason going against the Cowboys? Yes, just if you assume that JJ McCarthy is still going to be in rhythm enough to keep the Vikings offense moving, okay, I could see that. But I think Tracy's probably has the best out of that group. I think we're projecting more about whether it's Rashid Shaheed trying to keep up his target share after last week, Xavier Worthy getting a few more targets with the Chiefs backs up against the wall. So I think it's just more hypotheticals, and we're trying to at least paint a narrative for most of those guys where it's Tracy has the easiest floor of touches out of that bunch.
Diggs over Corum, Sky, Raven. And that takes us to a pretty good one here. McConkey versus Brian Thomas Jr., someone who actually was looking pretty good last week. Had the awesome one-handed catch down the sideline. Again, mentioned T-Law playing a little bit better before. That said, I'm checking right now, still consensus among the rankers. Yes, Lab McConkey over Brian Thomas Jr. Jaguars are playing better, Chris, and that's great. But I guess the problem for BTJ is that he now looks like number 2 wide receiver on his own team.
Yeah, and I wrote him up in the wide receiver cornerbacks matchup column. Actually, I think I wrote up Myers, but he's more like the ancillary play in that offense where he's getting that steady diet of vertical routes where, yes, it's good to see him catch and generate some of those explosives, but we could also see this is going to be in a game where Travis Etienne going up against the Jets run defense gets into the box a couple of times, and then it's just more of those shorter passes that keeps the Jaguars offense just moving the ball enough to keep it away from the Jets and their struggling team. So while I think BTJ could pop up for, let's see, a couple of shots downfield and maybe have a touchdown or something along those lines, I think it's hard to project than what we could see for Lad McConkey in this game. So I'd rather Lad.
And then Heather, just real quick, I would go with Jacoby Myers for your wide receiver, and then Javonte Williams and Chase Brown, most likely, if you want to slide in Judkins there, I do think it could make sense. And also Harold Fannin over Tyler Warren. And then she has another question later, 49ers, Dallas, or Bears defense. It's 3 great options. Probably the 49ers, Chris, because I don't think any of these 3 are particularly great in real life. So I would just kind of then divert to who's the best matchup. I think it's facing the Titans.
Yeah, and then also you could hold on to the 49ers defense for next week because if Philip Rivers comes out flat in this game and it's just absolute chaos for the Colts offense, they do face Indianapolis next week. So yeah, the 49ers is probably the best.
And that is a good general rule of thumb, guys, for your DST tiebreaker. Just peep the schedule real quick and see who has the best matchup next week, as Chris just did, can help you out there. From Pure Wall, something before, Superflex, so I play Brissett, Tyler Shuck, or Swift in full PPR. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett still. I like Tyler Shuck the rest of the way, guys. The schedule breaks out very nicely for the Saints. That's another actually low-key DST if you guys are really desperate looking for one. But just, again, enough allure, I think, for Jacoby here. Working as legit a top 5 quarterback since he's been under center. I know the matchup is rough, but hey, Chris, as we've seen, man, fantasy points count the same in garbage time as they do in the first quarter.
the Shuck, you're not drinking the Shuck Kool-Aid, man. That man hit 19 miles an hour running down the field for one of his 2 scores last week. He is essentially dusted off Taysom Hill. They're not doing that BS with bringing Hill into the red zone and all of that stuff. So at least I'm somewhat buying it, but I get the points about Jacoby Brissett with how well he's playing, the connection he has with both Trey McBride and Michael Wilson. I think he should get the start over Shuck. But I would say Superflex, I would say not even from a Superflex standpoint. Let's say if you're swinging for upside, I would say Shuck. At least he's shown that he has something of a ceiling there. So he's the only other guy I would think about here.
I hear it. In our ranks, guys, we got Jacoby as QB19. After that, I consider it more or less streamer territory. I probably push Caleb Williams into okay, let's go ahead and play him. But among all those streamers, the bottom 12 or 13 quarterbacks, that is where I'm going with Mr. Shuck. As Chris say, again, it was an impressive rushing performance there last week. Let's see. Liam Ross, Seattle or Jags D? Yeah, they are playing the Jets.
Yeah.
Still give me Seattle. Those are probably the two top defenses of the week, Chris. But give me Seattle.
100%. I don't think you could really go wrong, at least from a narrative standpoint, going into this game. You've got Seattle going up against 43-year-old Phillip Rivers, and then you've got Jags and Brady Cook's first full start. So pick your poison here. Either one of those two could come up for fumbles, interceptions, a bunch of sacks. Either are fine.
Marcus Mariota or Trevor Lawrence also in that game. I'm going with T-Law.
Yeah, I'd say Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Mariota, he's played well enough in Jaden Daniels' absence, and of course with Terry McLaurin, who also I wrote up in the wide receiver cornerbacks matchups column. I think he has a really good matchup against this Giants secondary. I mean, give me Trevor Lawrence, who's been willing to throw it even in the driving rain. We saw last week connecting with most of his pass catchers. So yeah, I think the upside is there for T-Law over Mariota.
Commanders, Giants, that's kind of the one game where you maybe could actually, bump down some of those passing numbers. Not going to see that same issue, fingers crossed, down there in Florida. From ball game, Genty or Travion in non-PPR. I'm going with Genty. I know we've had a couple, rough games in a row, but honestly, his receiving role really has expanded before last week's dud. I think he had 24 targets in his previous 3 games. And as much as the Eagles' defense has gotten better this year, guys, without Jalen Carter, they really have been had by opposing running backs. Javonte went off in week 1. Cam Scatterbo had the 3-touchdown game again without Jalen Carter. And then last week, Vidal and Hampton combined for 25 PPR points on their own right. So give me Genty. Given, Chris, again, when Travion, last time we saw him, really was in this split 50-50 situation with Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, and I want to say that this should be Trevion because if you were to look at how the Bengals played up against the Bills last week and how they're able to move the ball and how well Chase Brown played, even with having Samaje Perine work in, it was the running back that has not just the explosive carries or able to generate explosive carries, but also be able to be used in the passing game because Chase Brown caught what should have been 2 receiving touchdowns because he dropped that second one, even though it was pretty good coverage on that second one. But still, if you wanted that same archetype of running back out of the Patriots backfield, it would be Travion Henderson, not Ramondre Stevenson or Terrell Jennings. But that's me projecting that's how they should operate their offense. So I think it should be Travion Henderson, but really Ashton Genty, we know he's been getting 4, 5, 6 targets on a per week basis over this last month and a half or so. So I would lean Genty here.
Wondering Mariota or Toyotathon, Jordan Love. It's just because of the matchup against the Broncos, we do have Mariota. And just so you guys know, kind of that QB1 borderline, okay, we got Brock Purdy, QB10, just after Jackson Dart, followed by Jared Goff, Trevor Lawrence, Marcus Mariota coming as QB13. Behind him, we have Sam Darnold, Jordan Love, Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, Jacoby Brissett. And again, that's kind of when we get into streamer territory. So Mariota is starting ahead of guys like Darnold, Jordan Love, as we said, Bo Nix, Justin Herbert, Jacoby Brissett, amongst others. From Johnny, Wandale, Tracy, or Hampton for the flex spot in full PPR. Give me Wandale at this point. I was hoping to be Omari and Hampton, guys, but Kamani Vidal really did split the touches right down the middle and actually dominated the snaps. So, yes, it could veer back, towards Hampton's side in the second game together. But also there's a situation where behind that banged-up offensive line in a tougher matchup, Chris, I'm not so sure Hampton gets there. Give me Wandale.
It's not Wandale the same PPR scam that he's been in years past. He's been running more intermediate and deep routes, so he's been seeing more of a full route tree for him. And so with the target tree and also the expanded role, I said, yeah, give me Wandale here.
Also from, let's see, Skyraven, Odunze or Debo. Oh, man, I think I might have put them right next to each other. Do you have a lean on Debo versus Odunze, Chris?
I still give me Debo. I know he popped up with the
Yeah,
illness on Friday. I don't think it's the same type of, what do you have? What was it, pneumonia last year that people
yeah.
were talking about after the game? I don't think it's that serious. But still, against this Giant secondary, I believe should be without 3 or 4 defenders today. I would say I'd rather Debo over whatever we can think about Odunze, who's managing something. Was it a stress fracture in his foot? So I think
Yeah.
I'd rather Debo here.
Xfinity Starts It has Debo. Again, would never, ever say a bad thing about them. Absolutely love when we are in agreement here. From Thierry Diaz, Lamb or Collins? This must be guillotine. Has to be.
Right.
CeeDee Lamb and then Mahomes or Dak. It is non-PPR. Opponent has Pitts. A lot of us had to stare at that big
Yeah.
time 45-point hole or whatever it was all freaking weekend, pretending to still be a happy father or son or whatever have you. But yeah, so give me CeeDee Lamb and then Mahomes? Yeah.
Mahomes, yeah, I could see that. It's going to be tough, even though I would say like the
Actually, Chris, I'm sorry. We're starting CD. We're already in a hole because of Pitts. We probably just played a stack at that point. It is close. You guys heard the way I said that.
yeah, that was actually what I was how I was going to approach it, because I was thinking, yeah, Mahomes, you could tell yourself a story about how they need to pull themselves out of their own hole in the AFC West. But if we were going to play Lamb, even though I kind of like Collins a little bit more, but if you're trying to swing for the upside against Pitts, I would say that stack between Dak and Lamb makes the most sense.
And Mahomes' offensive line, unfortunately, is such a bad case as well. That against the Chargers D guys, that has been playing really good football in
Yeah,
the
they've been
second
good.
half of the year. Not exactly a smash spot there for him. From our guy Bird Matic, good morning, my friend. Jaden Higgins or David Montgomery in the flex. God, Monty is just so tough to trust for pretty much anything, particularly,
Mhm.
in a game where I don't know, guys. I'm expecting the Rams to kind of score a will. Lions to probably either be just in worse scoring points mode or comeback mode. Like Monty hasn't been bad this year, but Gibbs has just been so good they haven't taken him off the field. So I'm leaning Jaden Higgins. I'm curious, producer Matt, what Xfinity has to say about this. How do you lean, Chris?
Now I'm leaning a bit more towards Higgins, just because in this matchup we could see him getting some of the similar targets that Collins is getting, because Higgins has been playing that flanker role and getting some of those targets in obvious passing situations, third, fourth downs, and even when CJ Stroud has been under duress. So against this Cardinals secondary, who, yeah, they could give a bunch up to Woody Marks, I could see Higgins also catching enough targets, or catching enough passes to be fantasy relevant over Montgomery, where, yeah, they could be in trailing mode, leading to more targets to Jahmyr Gibbs. So, yeah, I think I'd give it to Higgins here.
With all due respect to Xfinity, I don't know how you could look at us and say David Montgomery after everything we just said. So again, it really is close, but you guys can go ahead and make your own decision there. Okay, let's see. From Tribe 6, Fannin, Bowers, or likely in PPR.
Whew.
Okay, it's Bowers, man, but take a good look at your lineup and see like where Fannin is coming out in as a flex, just because again, I'm personally in a couple situations where I am leaning towards Fannin over wide receivers. So just for example, like I have Fan right now ranked ahead of Christian Watson, ahead of Debo, Chris Godwin. I have him ahead of Chuba, Kenneth Gainwell, Ramondre Stevenson. So we're not benching Brock Bowers, Chris, but I guess just my point is like, especially with no David Njoku and just everything we've seen from Shador really targeting Fannin as their number one. Like think of Fannin less as a tight end here and just think of him as like the Browns' legit number one pass game option.
Approach it too. And could we see a scenario where, whether it's, I don't know, Quinyon Mitchell or Cooper DeJean, could they just be shadowing Brock Bowers? I could see that happening to the point where they limit how many targets that they get off to Bowers. So yeah, I think it's Fannin for me.
Sean P. We do have Purdy over T-Law, Hater,
Mhm.
half PPR, Travion or Devin Neal. I'm Devin Neal here, man. I just think he's going to get a pretty much 3-down workhorse role, 70-80% snap rate. And with Travion, man, it's just honestly, last 2 weeks ago when he played, like part of the reason why he got there was because the Patriots were kind of bullying the Giants and up a lot. He was getting fed the football, in the second
Yeah.
half. Again, it's crazy. I know Travion was putting up bonkers numbers for a freaking month without Ramondre, but Vrabel and them, they want to use him in 50-50 splits, guys. So give me Devin Neal.
Yeah, and Neal has also been used in the passing game as well without Alvin Kamara being in the lineup. So they also have a fairly, I wouldn't say easy matchup, but the Panthers, like they have given up a decent amount of production to running backs in the past. So I think Devin Neal, even from a projectable workload standpoint, should grade out better than Trevion Henderson.
H1608 full PPR. We do have Jalen Hurts over Jackson Dart, and then 2 RB, 1 flex. Harvey, Judkins, Dowdle, Neal, Tracy, Michael Wilson. I think it's Harvey, Judkins, and Michael Wilson.
Oh, he did say he started the Texans defense, so it's like, okay, yeah. But I think all the three that you named right there, I think that's the right way to approach it.
Big enough of a gap, I think, between Wilson, Dowdle, and Neal that I'm going to say whatever. But good note there. Appreciate you, MH. Another from Hater, 0.5 PPR, BTJ or Charbonnet. That's where I'm going to go with BTJ.
Yeah, I think so. The upside is there for Brian Thomas Jr. Whereas, I mean, yeah, could Sharps get some of the goal line carries and get into the end zone? Absolutely. That's more of a game script thing than anything else. So, yeah, I think it's Brian Thomas.
Cowboys DST is our consensus. DST 7 in the ranks, Greggy, so would not be too worried about that there. From the J Car, Tyler Warren or
Theo?
Tez Johnson?
Theo.
That makes way more sense. I'm still hurt from having Tez Johnson in a bunch of teams, Chris, and him just becoming an absolute zero here over the past few weeks. So it is close, man. I still lean Tyler. Just thinking about when teams make quarterback changes, and I've had the same thought with the rookies. And honestly, at this point, noodle arm veterans as well. Like just put your real football hat on. Like who's most likely to kind of get these targets? I think it's going to be short design stuff, aka what Tyler Warren gets the most out of. So again, we've downgraded him. Tyler Warren's been a top 5 tight end for freaking months at this point. He is more tight end 8, tight end 9, but Theo Johnson coming in more so tight end 11, tight end 12. So give me Tyler Warren.
So I was looking at his usage throughout the first 3 months of the season, Tyler Warren specifically, and before Daniel Jones's whole leg went kablooey, it was actually Tyler Warren that was getting targeted about the exact same number of targets on quick game concepts. So when Daniel Jones was getting rid of the football in less than 2.5 seconds, Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman had equal amount of targets, 47 each. So if that's the way that they're going to try and approach this game, just have Phillip Rivers drop back and essentially do the Aaron Rodgers offense, just the park and bark, just get rid of the ball as quickly as possible. I could see Tyler Warren getting enough targets to at least be better than Theo Johnson.
That we have ranked ahead of Tyler Warren, McBride, Kittle, Bowers, Fannin, of course, Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelce, and Jake Ferguson. We have Tyler Warren ranked ahead of Bretton Strange, Dalton Kincaid, Mark Andrews, Theo Johnson, and Jawan Johnson. So Warren is outside the circle of trust, if you will, but again, still ranked ahead of some of these more so borderline tight end 1 types. Appreciate you, though, Jay Carr. Big Doug and Carmi wondering in full PPR flex, Chris Rodriguez, Kareem Hunt, Quentin Johnson, or Luther Burden. I'm pretty good with Kareem Hunt, man. He's been a low-end RB2 ever since taking over the role. Pacheco hasn't taken anything back.
Yeah, and Chris Rodriguez popped up on the injury report earlier this week. Quentin Johnston popped up on the injury report earlier this week. So I'd say it's really from if you want to do the health bump, I would say Hunt is probably the best out of that group versus whatever we can try and project that Luther Burden's ceiling could be. Really haven't seen that from him since that flea flicker he caught back in, what was that, week 3 or so. So I'd say Hunt is probably the best out of that group.
That was a sick play. Hilariously bad flea flicker pitch.
Oh, yeah. That went like 10 yards up in the air, it looked like, for a second. Yeah.
Kareem Hunt winning out from Xfinity Start Sit as well. Love when we can become in agreement there. From all tubes, starting 3 in full PPR. Debo, Terry, Monungai, Tracy, Ladd, and Monty. I think I'm going Terry, Monungai. Terry, Tracy, and Ladd. It's close with Monungai and Tracy. I will say, Chris, even though Debo could have a seat at the table, we're starting Terry. I don't love the idea of going to war with both 2 Commanders wide receivers there. And I think the other options are good enough to have that viewpoint. So Terry, Tracy, and Ladd, if you wanted to go Monungai over Tracy, I wouldn't hate you.
Yeah, I think that's how I would approach it. Monty, it's just so tough to call because could the Lions try and employ the same type of approach that the Panthers did to the Rams, where they're trying to switch off the running backs like a Rico Dowdle, Chuba Hubbard type of thing, and then just try and put Jared Goff into more advantageous passing situations on later downs with both the running backs playing well on early downs? Yes, they could. I could totally see that happening, but how reliable is that approach, and are they actually going to be able to do that against this Rams secondary? I don't know. So that's my only case for Monty. So I think the other guys that you mentioned, so with Terry, Monungai, Ladd, I think those are the guys that I think are probably have the better upside there.
10-minute warning, guys. We'll try to get to as many as possible. Excuse us if we do start keeping the explanations a little bit shorter. From our guy, Matt, full PPR start 2. I always say this, Chris, and like immediately I get the first question that ends up being a tough one that we probably do need to talk out. But Harvey, Marks, Kyron, and Terry McLaurin. Again, when it's close, I prefer to lean towards the running backs. So give me Harvey and Kyron.
I would say Harvey or McLaurin for the upside. That'd be the only other one that I would look at.
From Cameron, half PPR needs 2 RBs and a flex. Neil Hall, Jalen Warren, Isaiah Likely, and Ricky Pearsall, who has done a whole lot of nothing but does have a good matchup. Give me Neil, Warren, and Hall. Give me the 3 running backs.
Neil, Warren, and Hall. Yeah, I think so. I think the only one that stuck out is Likely, but yeah, Neil, Warren, and Hall.
From Davey, half PPR, Jaden Reed or Pittman. Probably Reed.
I think Reed, it was good to see how many snaps and targets he was getting and even usage out of the backfield. So I think I like that over whatever your feelings are regarding Phillip Rivers and the Colts.
Super embarrassing could be decision. Hardy, har. Lamar or Burrow. Chris is kind of talking me into Lamar, man. Are you going Lamar here, Chris?
I think I am going Lamar with how poorly that the Bengals have played so far. Let's just go ahead and be done with this season for Cincinnati. I'm going Lamar here. And that could be a little reverse jinx. Maybe the reverse jinx winds up working out for me, but I think there's enough there for Lamar to be the better option.
But if just very reasonable shenanigans don't go south in that Bengals game, Lamar scores 17 points. Last week, everyone knows it was a touchdown to Isaiah Likely. If he was coming off 17 and 25 fantasy points, I think we'd probably be going Lamar and not
that's
twice.
What I'm saying.
And I know you can kind of do this with other quarterbacks, but it really has been awfully weird so recently with Lamar. Yeah. Michael, start Rome. Not really if you can help it, man. He's a low-end wide receiver 3. Obviously wasn't having much going before having this foot injury, but obviously we need a little more context. From Haim Pate. Morning, need 3, half PPR. Genty, Dowdle, Neal, and Olave. Give me.
I think the first 3.
I'm sitting Dowdle, I think. Oh, no. You want to sit Olave?
Yeah, I think maybe Olave out of that group. I think it's just because the way that Shuck has been playing with the rushing component. I'd rather take the running back connected with Shuck over Olave. I think you're getting enough out of the passing game from those 3 and or rushing production versus Olave. But that's just the way I'd approach it.
I think it's Genty and Neal for sure. Olave versus Dowdle's a toss-up. I lean Olave, but then if you don't want 2 Saints in your lineup, I get that as well. Yeah. J.K. Subtle, thoughts on RB2 flex between Tracy and Monungai, half PPR. I just think Tracy has a better chance of being the 70-30 lead back. Monungai is still going to kind of be that 1B, even if it is getting closer to 50-50. So would lean Tracy there. From Joseph in non-PPR, confidently start Michael Wilson over Diggs. I think CMC's going, so I really wouldn't worry about it, man. But I would go Brian Robinson over Neal in that case.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't probably push out Wilson, though, for Devin Neal. Okay. No. The first one, though, Michael Wilson over Stephon Diggs. I'm playing Wilson over Diggs. It is non-PPR, which I do think helps out on Wilson.
I agree.
Cool. Yale Flores, PPR tight end, Jake Ferguson, Mike Gesicki, Isaiah Likely. It's Jake Ferguson by a pretty good amount. Again, he is supposed to be there. Lonely Stoner. It's all right, man. You're still having a good time. 12-team PPR. Sit 1, Judkins, Hendo, Waddle, and Kyron. Ooh. Hendo.
Yeah.
Cool. Start 1, Hunter Henry, Loveland, or Likely.
Loveland?
God.
Loveland or Likely?
Yeah. Shoot for the moon. Give me Likely, I think. He is heavily favored. Yeah. The one and only PPR, Warren or Ferguson. Again, we have Ferguson just 1 spot ahead. Enough of a concern there. Michael Regine setting up the D for week 16, 17. Thinking of dropping. I get you for dropping Tampa. Saints, Rams. Yeah, dude, you already have Saints and Rams. You're good. Drop Tampa. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Again, just keep an eye on the Chiefs. And then, so cool. Chris Martin, Watson or Slayton in full PPR. I'm on Christian Watson here, man. He's been great. Maybe Pat Surtain locks him up, but just, again, enough of a gap between him and Slayton.
Yeah, because PS2 could be on Romeo Dobbs just as much as he is on Christian Watson. So, yeah, I'd still go CW.
Sky Raven, we do have 80 Mitchell ahead of Mitchell Tinsley. I like where your head's at, though. Paul Martin, morning. Superflex needs the upside. Pick 2 QBs, Darnold, Mariota, J.J. McCarthy, or Jacoby Brissett. I think he's got the order right. Darnold and Mariota.
Yep, that's it.
And then Jalen Warren over Chuba Hubbard. From Collins, Jennings or Neal. Again, when it's close, Chris, I'm going with the running back. Give me Neal.
Yeah, I would say that Jennings, I do like the upside for him, but I'll take him full PPR. Yeah, Neal. Oh, he also says he has Kittle. So, yeah, I would say go Neal.
Enough of a tiebreaker for sure. From Hater, half PPR, Gainwell or Charbonnet. I'm higher on Gainwell than a lot of our other rankers. It is half, so you don't quite get the same advantage. But, bro, he has his games where he just catches 6 or 7 layups, and they kind of interchange them. So, I'm going with Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, he does look like the wide receiver 2 or pass catcher 2 for Pittsburgh because it's not like Rodgers is throwing it to Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson or any of those other guys. So, yeah, I think Gainwell is probably the better one here.
George, definitely Judkins over Travion. The Sound Machine, Hampton over Tracy. That's pretty much unanimous as well. Moons, half point PPR, Likely and Strange. I would go Strange over Likely, and then Olave over McLaurin, but it is close. Go Bucks. Amen, dude. We're about to get that freaking natty back, baby. So Strange and Olave, Chris, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think I like that. I'd lean a bit more towards McLaurin, but I think with the matchup and also the volume, I think Olave is the better one there.
That weather just maybe a tiebreaker enough of a concern here for me.
Fair.
Michael Gonzalez, full PPR, needs one RB in flex. Diggs, Judkins, and Harvey. I'm taking the running backs.
Yep, that's where I'd head to.
Tom Burton, 0.25 per rush attempts. I hate that setting, but, I appreciate you, Tom. One PPR, Josh Jacobs or Woody. Oh, man. Woody's set up well. I can't quite get him over Jacobs, who is just a lock to score anytime he suits up.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It should be kind of a closer matchup for this, guys, compared to what we could see out of the Texans with Woody. So yeah, Jacobs.
Yeah. Freddie, worried about Sutton. I don't know, man. I need a little more info. Appreciate no Freddie. From Mike, 0.5 PPR, Tedero or Travion. I'm going T-Mac.
Yeah, Ted.
Eric, Michael Wilson, Waddle or Olave. That is about the line, man. Let me see where I have it. Do you have a lean on this one, Chris?
I lean Wilson here. It's probably either Wilson or Olave.
I have them 11, 12, 14, but Wilson is, in fact, the first one. So still going to go out for our guy, Big Mike. How far we've come out, in 4 or 5 weeks with Michael freaking Wilson. So, Greggy, I would go Lab McConkey over Tony Pollard. The Hoff, Burrow, or Lamar. Chris has talked me into Lamar, so blame me if it goes wrong.
Yeah.
J-Rod, Rodriguez, if he plays, Likely, Slayton, Watson, Singletary, pick 2. Watson for sure.
Then Slayton?
I'd be okay with that. Yeah, Watson and Slayton.
Okay.
Goff or Burrow. Give us Burrow. Zach from Bruce, Standard, Lad, Vele. I mean, is Lad down that bad, guys? That's a little bit of an insulting start-sit question, I feel like.
Yeah, that one's
could be wrong. Now that I bring it up, it probably is going to be wrong. But I would go Lad, Strange, and pick whatever kicker has a higher projection. That's my stance. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I'd say Lad and then Strange, and then let's go McPherson. Go Bengals.
Just saying, man, like you want to start Jalen Coker over Lab McConkey in the fantasy playoffs. With all due, I love Jalen Coker. I freaking love Jalen Coker, but I'm still turned off by that question. Zach, Goff or Burrow? I have St. Brown. My opponent has Chase. I'm going Burrow just regardless of that. I mean, it's good to kind of have that in your mind, but just, again, Burrow either way. We do have Tyler Warren over Theo. Corey, appreciate you listening, brother. Pick 2 half PPR, Jaden Higgins, Aaron Jones, Shakur, or Fannin. See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, Fannin wins out here for me. I'm going Fannin, and then I think Aaron Jones, man. Oh, dude. I have this in my, home league, the one I care about the most, where it's, Fannin, Jones, Warren, and it's just 4 guys who are right next to each other. It's been freaking me out all weekend. Aaron Jones is a cowboy killer and always has been, but I'm trying to not let that completely change, what I'm thinking of, because let's face it, this is a brand new team, brand new situation. But anyway, Fannin over Higgins and Shakur, and then Jones is closer, but give me Jones. How about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think those are the 2 right there, Fannin and Jones. I mean, pass catching and also the rushing production for Jones. Tough matchup, but I still think it's those 2.
Sorry, lost my spot here. Love when that happens. God. Peninsula Marca, throw something up. What happened?
There we go.
From Penny. Yeah, 0.5 PPR underdog, Debo or BTJ. I'm leaning BTJ there, man.
If you need the upside, but if you're just looking for a floor play, I think Debo's the better one there.
Okay, I found it again. All right, here we go. Olave, Waddle, McMillan, who's getting benched? I'm benching T-Mac.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Ernest, picking 2. Michael Wilson, yes. McLaurin, Judkins, and Jacobs. Ooh, maybe not yes. Probably Judkins and Jacobs, Chris.
Judkins, yeah. Judkins and Jacobs, yeah. I think that's where I'd go. Yeah.
And then Goddard should go over Waller, just a situation where Greg Dulcich was starting to get a little bit more into Waller.
That's what I was about to say, yep.
Yep. Wesley, Houston, or Jax D. I think I'd be fine going Jax. Brady Cook looked absolutely horrendous over there, but that is I hear you there. Chad,
Yep.
Jettas, Lad, Michael Wilson, Neil, Trey Hendo needs an RB2 and a flex in half PPR. Wilson and
Neil?
probably Neil. Yeah.
Yeah, either Wilson and Neil or Wilson and Ladd.
I would not sub Vele in. Peckish, Neil, or Myers in the flex. That's a closer one. Probably Neil.
Yeah, I think that's where I would go. Yeah.
Okay, guys. I think that's going to about wrap it up. I'm sorry we cannot get to all these, but hey, again, Xfinity Start Sit Tool. If you go to fantasylife.com, go to our tools. It is our Start Sit Tool. It is 100% free. Dwayne's been in the lab all freaking year trying to get this thing right for you guys. It gives you the ability to say if you're an underdog, if you're a big favorite, enter in your roster settings. And again, it kind of gives you the whole ceiling, median, the floor projection range of things. So again, it gives you another tool to hopefully help you make the right decision or something to blame in case things go wrong. But again, best of luck. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We will be back in week 16 and week 17 to hopefully get you across that finish line. So for Chris, for producer Lamarca, I'm Ian. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, take care, everybody.